All right, sorry for the delay, guys. So first of all, let me know if you can hear me, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I have my predictions for 2021. I pulled out my nerd crystal ball, and I think they're going to be accurate, so we'll soon find out. All right, so please give me a the sound is okay, sound is good indicator before I get into it. So we'll do the subject and then we'll get into the Q&A. So I hope everybody is well. So please, in the comments, give me some thumbs up letting me know that the sound is good. Been waiting for 3 hours. Wow, thanks. I appreciate that, Splinter Cell. Yeah. All right, appreciate that. Thank you, Ran. Yeah. So you guys can hear me well. We could hear you happy. We could hear you Happy New Year. Good. So yeah, just somebody write in the comments. I can hear you clearly. So just I know that everybody can hear me clearly. And yeah, sounds good. All right, thank you. Good, fantastic. So, like a lot of people around the world, thank you. I appreciate that. Good. So I want you, if you don't mind, oblige me, say hello from wherever you are in the world, whether it be the city or U.S. state or some country in Africa. So yeah, so let me know how it goes. Hey, Ray, thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. Just graduated, 9-month full stack course. Your videos help so much. Thank you. Hey, congratulations, Tommy. Fantastic. Good. That's good. So I think, yeah, let me just go. I'm going to give you a quick run through my predictions very quickly. And then we'll do some Q&A. I got some other things I can talk about as well. Like you guys, it's COVID, so I can't really, can't go out, and I can't see my relatives who are much older. Given my age, imagine how old they are, and it's not good for anybody concerned. So I figured, hey, I'll hang out with you guys. Why not? Good times. So, yeah. So let me just jump into that, and then we'll talk about a few other things. Yeah, all right. Hello. Okay, so we go. We Good day from Australia, from Southwest Michigan, Chicago, cool. I was there, good city. From Ghana, wow, very cool. Hey, thanks. Hello from Southern California, very good. What part? Happy New Year to you. Yes, exactly. I'll answer questions later on in the stream. I just want to call it. Yeah. Sounds good. I appreciate that. Yeah, it sounds kind of silly, but I asked just in case. I don't want to start talking for 5 minutes and nobody can hear me, so I just wanted to check. Thumbs up. Is LinkedIn a great... Okay, I'll answer questions later. Hello from Bangladesh. Very cool. Thanks for joining. Mexico, place I gotta go. Mexico. Hello from New York. Yeah. Cool. All right, so how many people are on? Okay, it was not bad. Toronto, fellow Canuck. Cool. All right, so let me just jump into it, and then very quickly, and then we'll do some Q&A. We'll jump into some other subjects. I did a big change. I moved from phone number 1 for the first time ever to phone number 2. I just gave it away. All right, that wasn't very good. All right, South Dakota, very cool. Brazil, very cool. All right, so what do I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 predictions for 2021 vis-a-vis coding, jobs, etc. And Italy. And yeah, so number 1, this may surprise you. If you don't know, Apple released a brand new chip technology, an ARM-based processor, M1. So it just runs super cool, and meaning not hot, and it uses very little energy. So the first iteration of these new type of computers are just blowing everybody away, even in the PC world. And yeah, so for instance, you have laptops that will have like 20, 30 hours of battery life on a charge. 20, 30 hours, that's playing video. I think that, and they're so powerful, they're so fast, they blow the doors off any other chips relative to price. So what does this all mean? This all means that you're going to see a big revolution in hardware. All the other companies, Microsoft announced, and I think other companies announced that they're going to be moving to ARM, because Apple basically just, what they did with smartphones, with the touch screen, and that just changed the whole game. I think this new technology is going to change the whole game. This could have a huge impact in terms of, I think, AI, because these processors are so energy efficient and so fast that it should really have a huge boost to the AI world. And it's also going to cut down server costs by a huge amount. Now, if you don't know, some of the more sophisticated servers like AWS, which is Amazon, and others, they have you pay sometimes, depending on the model, they have you pay by CPU cycles and processor. But if their energy requirements are dropping by like, what's it? I was watching some reviews of the M1 chip, and this is the first gen, right? Which means future gens are going to be far better. First gens are always the worst. And they were seeing an M1 chip using 6 watts of power versus an Intel chip using 45 watts of power. And they are matching or beating it, depending on the situation. And that's significant. So when you go out there to rent server space, all of a sudden, apparently Amazon already announced they're going to be putting together banks of servers based on M1 tech. You'll be able to rent out server space from them, and since their energy costs will be much less, since their CPU computational cost will be so much less, server costs and huge, massive server scaling is going to be much less. So that means that developing the next big piece of software, overall hosting costs should diminish quite as much as well. So M1 should also, the Apple M1 chip, if you don't know, it's a new chip that Apple just put out. ARM-based, meaning it runs super cool, no fans required necessarily, and it runs super long. Like battery, instead of your laptop having to be charged after 10 hours, it could last 20, 30 hours playing video. So this is like a game changer. And I'm not one to say, to talk about game changers too often, but I think it's as big as what iPhone did to smartphones, and even the world if you think about it. And I think M1 is going to be just as big. It's going to affect server, hosting, AI, programming. I think people who would never look at Apple computers before may really strongly consider them now. And it's also going to force the whole industry to move over to ARM-based technology, which is good for everybody. So that's fantastic. So that's the first one. The big move to M1, ARM processor, ARM processing. That's very cool. And as an ancient nerd as I am, this is something that I find pretty interesting. We don't see this too often. Again, last time I think we saw a huge change like this in terms of hardware was the iPhone. And I'm not an Apple fanboy. I was a Pixel user for many years. Never used an iPhone, just to give you a context. Okay, so how about COVID? COVID is basically accelerating the inevitability of the change in the economy and in our society. So what's that? The inevitability is remote work, the inevitability of more remote type of situations. It just pushed it forward. So if I was an owner of commercial real estate, I'd be very, very concerned right now, because a lot of companies are starting to think, well, you know what? You know, we've been doing this 8 months now or 9 months now, remote work, and our company runs fine. So why should we have all these big spaces and pay all this rent for nothing? So I think you're going to see that more and more and more. And that's going to be pretty bad for these guys. Every now and then, you see entire economies and societies shift. The last big shift, Industrial Revolution, where everybody moved from the farms, like 80 or something percent of the people in North America lived on farms. And within a short period of time, they all moved into the cities to get jobs because of the Industrial Revolution. COVID is just speeding up a cycle that was happening, the distance work cycle. I was one of the original guys back in the 90s. I said to myself, well, it's so stupid to drive into work every day and to spend 2 hours in a car, wasting your life away in a car, you know? And so I decided to set up a business model based around not having to do that. And then at one point I had like a location, physical, where my previous business, non-tech business, I had location, I had warehouses and I had office space and all this garbage. It was a huge headache. And then when I got into the original Studio Web back in the late 90s, the original Studio Web was a web design studio. I had people and they'd come and work for me. And that's because high-speed internet wasn't really there. It was just starting, you know, and it was very, very basic compared to now. But now with super high-speed internet and 5G and bandwidth costs dropping like crazy and M1 chips, et cetera, I think that COVID is, and all these things is just pushing forward the inevitable, and you're going to see a fast forward to that. So, yeah, that's just something. You see here up in Canada, a lot of people are now leaving the suburbs and the cities and moving up north. And so they just, like, I was reading an article today saying houses that were on the market for years, all of a sudden within like a few months, they also, a bit of a panic exodus out of the cities. We'll see. We'll see how I think there's usually an overreaction and then a flow back when you see these things, but definitely there is a shift in that direction. So yeah, more remote work related jobs. So if you're looking to get a job as a developer, there's a high probability, if you want to get a job, that you could probably get the job where you don't have to go into work. Prior to COVID, it was happening, but it was much more rare. It was much less accepted by a lot of people that they'll let people work at home, right? Now it's like, the doors, that whole paradigm has totally shifted. It was happening, but it's happening much more quickly. In education, I'm in the education space. I deal with a lot of schools. I've been working with schools for 10 years. I'm, in full transparency, I'm owner of Studio Web, and I also have investment in other educational-based companies as well. So I'm in the game, and it's just fast-forwarding the whole thing. And it's going to be remote, high-speed internet. And I think that perhaps AR type of programming might speed up in terms of its viability as a job. That might speed up quite a bit as well, something to look into, simply because you can project images into your spaces. And if everybody's working remotely and everybody's got 5G and everybody's got ultra fast processors like the M1, then all of a sudden AR, it might not be a 5 to 10 year away thing. It may be a 2-3 year away thing. I don't know, but you think about it, I'm putting together the logics of my nerd brain with my business brain, and I'm putting two and two together, and I'm getting this mess that I'm giving you now. But no, seriously, it's I think that's an opportunity there. All right. So another thing that COVID has done, prediction number 3. Another thing that COVID has done is it's shut down a lot of businesses. So the government has decided to choose certain businesses to win and other businesses to lose. I don't think it's a nefarious intent. I think when you have to choose between nefarious intent versus this incompetence and being lost, when you're looking at large organizations and government is the largest, you got to lean towards it's 95% chance, 98% chance. They don't know what the hell's going on. So what they're doing is they're effectively killing a lot of businesses, small businesses, making the digital businesses huge, the Amazons and the Netflix and the Apples. People can't go to a local store to buy, I don't know, some running shoes or something, but they can order from Amazon, and in the Amazon fulfillment center, you got thousands of people fulfilling these orders. Doesn't make sense to me, right? Or you got kids are going to school, but all day, but you can't send people can't go to restaurants. But if you go to Costco, you can walk around Costco for an hour and, eat food there too, but that's okay. So it's kind of again, I don't think it's nefarious, I just think it's craziness. But what that is doing in the end is going to cause a lot of small businesses to shut down, unfortunately, and I feel terrible for them. But out of that forced destruction, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity because a lot of new small businesses are going to come out of this, brand new ones. And they're going to be remote oriented, which means there's going to be a lot of coding and web design and development work to do. There's no question about that. And I think the government is going to be forced to back that up with loans and grants and stuff like this. This seems to me the logical thing for them to do. So it just means huge opportunities for software development and specifically the web. As you know, I've been at this game since the 90s, and the web, I think, will dominate and will continue to dominate for the longest time. So, so because of the destruction of essentially 30% of the economy, because of COVID forced shutting people down, once that clears away, and I imagine it'll clear away reasonably soon, we hope, then there's going to be a growth out of that. And out of that growth is new modern businesses, new modern thinking. People are going to want websites. They're going to want WordPress sites up, sites from scratch, e-commerce implementation, social media implementation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So it's a good thing in that sense. Kind of like in nature, you have fires in the woods, and the fires renew the forest. That's why they have fires periodically. All right. Next. All right. As you've seen over the last few years, there's been increased tensions with the Chinese Communist Party, Chinese government. The two superpowers, the Americans and the Chinese, they're going at it more and more. China is going at it with Canada to a certain extent. Going at it means belligerence, Europe. And so, again, obviously I have my allegiances. I'm North American, but, and I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking just about the government disputes and so forth. Anyway, long story short, that means that China is rushing to build up their internal consumption economy. Good for them. And in North America and Europe, they're going to be looking to bring manufacturing back here. Again, an effect of COVID, it made people realize that to have all your manufacturing or key parts of your economy reliant on some foreign body, whether it be China or Europe or whoever, is silly. So governments are realizing this now, so they're going to start bringing back manufacturing here, encouraging local production in your local states, wherever you happen to be. People realize that you have to have some local. Trading is good, but you have some local, which again means more jobs in your area. Yeah, so that's going to be a big boom, especially in the West and outside of China. Again, let's not get political. Let's not get angry. The people of China, they're just along for a ride like everybody else. It's just the situation, okay? And as I suggested before, the final trend I want to talk about is that the web will continue to dominate. One of my theses going back a few years is that when they were talking about mobile development versus hybrid versus native mobile, I suggested on multiple occasions that non-native solutions, cross-platform solutions like web-based responsive sites, PWAs, Flutter, React Native, et cetera, these type of things, I believe, are going to increase in importance over time. Why? Because the cost of developing a code base for iOS and then having to develop an entire new code base for Android with Kotlin, it would be Kotlin now, I would do it in Kotlin, it's very expensive and very time consuming. So if you can develop your app with a PWA, which is web-based tech, or you can develop your app with Flutter or React Native, people are going to do it. Companies are going to do it. And because, you know, like I just got this new iPhone 12 Max here. My first iPhone ever. The processor in here is so powerful that the need for native solutions is diminishing every single year, right? Because one of the major issues with non-native solutions, PWAs, etc., was speed. But these things are so bloody fast. That's gone. So again, more towards the web. So if you're, I think most of the people are into coding for career-oriented purposes, I would suggest strongly that for broadest career opportunity, you start with the web stack. Now, if you know me, you know my philosophy, you learn your fundamentals well, then you can pivot in any direction you want. But the web stack is just very, very cool because you can do web, you can do front end, back end, you can do full stack, you can go to WordPress or maybe Wix, advanced Wix work because they have an API which is JS-based, JavaScript based. You can go into PWA, you can go into just simple responsive type of application, et cetera, et cetera. It gives you a wide range of skills, and because you could be, if you were a front-end UI UX guy, it's very oriented towards design-oriented people, you got a spot there in web. Or if you're more of a hardcore nerd type of guy, you can go down deep into the back end if you want. If you're kind of a generalist, you can do full stack, right? So it gives you a lot of opportunities job-wise. Again, for those who don't know, when I look at technologies, I'm always considering the financial implications, whether it be jobs that you can get with it, or how it affects business. For me, whether it's Python, JavaScript, Java, C#, Golang, Rust, et cetera, C++, I look at all these things from the point of view of business and application, in business. And so, as I said before, in my last few years, especially my last few years as a freelance developer, I was able to let go of this whole notion that I was a Java programmer or I was a C# programmer. I became a developer. So I would go into a project and I would say, okay, what's the project? What's the needs of the project? What technology stacks which would best serve this particular project at hand? And sometimes it would be Java. Sometimes it might be C#. Sometimes it might be PHP. It will never be Ruby. Okay, that's just a Ruby joke. You know what I mean? You would choose, and sometimes it would be some really weird stuff. Like I've written software in some really weird technologies that I would never think of using, but the jobs at hand would have some very particular requirement, and then I would find some weird, crazy stack that just did that well. So, that happens. So when you can graduate, when you can evolve out of the mindset that you are a Java coder or this coder or that coder, you have your favorite languages, no doubt. And you may concentrate on certain things for years, or you may do your whole career. It depends on what you want to do. But a lot of it is just personal choice at the end of the day. One of the things that I see out there, people say, this is the language to learn in 2021. I do those videos, I admit it, because it brings in a little bit of audience. But all you have to do is, you want to know what to learn in 2021, just go to Indeed.com or any local job sites and see what the demand is. A lot of times it's stuff that you'd figure that's old and crappy, right? So for example, a lot of people for years say, oh, PHP is crap, it's no good, but PHP is like, I did a video, I don't know, a month or two ago. The growth of PHP demand was the biggest growth of any language, 800% on one of the sites. I think it was Indeed. So a huge demand for this language. Now, when young people, and I'll conclude with this, and I'll go into Q&A in about a second. When people are getting into the game, it's natural, you always want to learn the newest stuff, but when they actually get into the world of programming, they realize that a lot of these old technologies are dominant. Python, it's like, what, 25 years old now, 30 years old? It's dominant. JavaScript, it's 20, 25, 30 years old. It's dominant. Java, C#, dominant. They're not going anywhere. SQL, language of databases, very dominant, et cetera, et cetera. So back in the day, in the 90s, yes, there was a lot of churn in the game. Churn, C-H-U-R-N, churn, change, because the technologies were pretty inadequate at the time. Like what you can do today in the web is just incredible. HTML5 is so powerful. It's unbelievable. Like, one of the stories I like to tell is I remember I was on a project working for a big telco, and we were launching a project that was required that we complete it by a particular date so they can get their license with the Canadian government. So it was very important. So we're this elite team, and I remember one guy, he spent like a week or two working on a calendar picker, a date picker for a web app. Now you just use the HTML date, right? Or jQuery, if people still use that. It's just so simple now. Anyway, the point is, you don't see the churn, you don't see the change that you used to see in the past, because the technology is just mature, which is normal in any in any industry. You see in the early days, big changes, and then it kind of levels off over time. Think of smartphones, right? They're pretty, except for the batteries, 4 or 5 year old, 6-year-old smartphones are pretty good. They're really good, Like I have this brand new, I got the Pro Max, fully loaded, everything you want. And it's better than my 2-year-old Pixel, there's no question, it's newer, but it's not that much better. And I think back to 5, 6-year-old phones, except for the battery issue, you just can get a new battery in there. It's pretty good, Yeah. So there you go. Those are my, how did I go with this? Wow, 29 minutes nonstop. I didn't even take a breath. That's pretty good. So this is pretty good. I think this is a lot of information in this video. So let me know if you like the subject. Give me some thumbs up. There's 200 of you. And I'll do a little bit of Q&A, and I got some other things I can cover. Well, one thing, let me tell you, people say, when are you going to do new courses? My courses, my coding courses are pretty much evergreen. I'm going to add a couple of little things here and there to them, I think, in the first quarter of this year. But, HTML5 has not changed in years. CSS3 has not changed in years. JavaScript has not changed in years. Python has not changed in years. The changes are they're on the fringes. And when it comes to fundamentals, they haven't changed. So I changed them and upgrade. Like the last upgrade I did, I think, was to SQL, some stuff on SQL. I wanted to change one of the PHP libraries. So my stuff is fairly evergreen, and just go read the reviews. Don't take, people do it and they get jobs. So, but I will be doing a few little updates here and there in terms of the code things, nothing major. So if you already paid, don't worry, they'll just show up, and I'll let people know what they are. It's nothing major, but again, if you've done my courses, you can learn these things on your own like this, just going to the help docs. Not a big deal. But what I'm bringing now to the game this year, I think is very important, is I want to teach, I'm releasing a few supporting skill sets. So first of all is communications, psychology skill sets. Ask any experienced developer, what's more important, learning a new language or learning how to be a better communicator, written and verbal? They'll all tell you, people with 5 years experience or more, they'll all tell you, communication skills is paramount. So I'm going to be bringing stuff out on that. I also have a course, I think I'm just going to call it Money. And I think I'll release that for free. And that's going to be 15 lessons that took me years and decades actually to learn a bunch of these things. But if you follow these 15 steps, simple things you can do, you can find yourself in a fantastic position financially very quickly, okay? So I got the communications coming out, soft skills, I suppose. I'm gonna have the advanced psychology training. I call it Lizard Wizard. I have the money course coming out soon. Yeah, off the top of my head, it's not bad, and I'll do some little updates here and there to the software end of things, but we're pretty good. All right, so let's see where we are. Okay, 196, yeah. All right, cool. Glad you like the stuff. Well, yeah, with ES6, but when it talks to, ES6, but when it comes to the basics, I think it's Latin var, it's about it. Software architecture matter. WebAssembly might continue to make C++ and C# more useful in the near future. Could be. I was talking to a friend of mine who is, he's a big C++ developer. I am not. But he hates writing code in C++, and he writes a lot of C++, been doing it for years. He says that the problem is there's just there's a lot of legacy code out there. A lot of legacy code, and nobody wants to change. He said that it was interesting. The biggest problem we have is just manipulating strings. Manipulating strings. As simple as that, if you can understand that. Is there a saturation of MERN stack devs? I don't know. Take a look. Let the job site. Lizard Wizard episodes. Yes, they will be. There will be. There's no question. I know a lot of developers who can communicate well but can't code, and it doesn't work out too well for them. Well, yeah. Well, I assume they have a certain level of coding as well. But a lot of devs are famously not very good communicators. All right. What else do we got? All right. With the push to remote work, it seems like more people will learn to code. Is the job market saturation something to be concerned about? I feel behind the curve and late to the party. I don't believe so. I think there's just going to be a lot more coding jobs because of these things, you know? How's e-commerce going to be going forward? I think it's going to be bigger because people are going to start doing more e-commerce because the e-commerce guys, they did fantastic during COVID. And as typical of people, they're going to knee-jerk react to what happened. Chances are of another COVID are very low, if history is any guide. So, yeah, there you go. Money secret enough. Make enough money so you can live below your means. That's a pretty good prediction. That's actually lesson number 1. That's the foundation to everything. You're psychic, man. Daniel, do you think Deno is still a while away from being legit Node replacement? I don't know. I don't know what the buzz is on that. I still hear Node, the package manager rather, the NPM's been a while since I looked at it. I heard it's still messy. I don't know. When I looked at it way back, I was like, oh, this is too much of a mess, so forget it. But I hear it's still messy. I don't know. Maybe somebody can react to that and let me know. It seems like every time I learn something new in React, it's actually just JS I didn't know, or some feature of Webpack or something like that. Yeah, pretty much. It happened to me all the time. That's why I emphasize the basics, one of the reasons anyway. When I would run into problems understanding something, it usually was the source of my lack of understanding, that it was not having a grasp of some basic construct in programming. That's why I keep pushing that. But I learned that also as a fighter. The best fighters, the best athletes, they work on their fundamentals over and over again, whether it be boxing or MMA or Thai boxing or basketball. It's fundamentals, and coding, fundamentals. It is more likely to get front-end job as a junior or back-end with my market says React. Yeah, well, just do it, develop the skills, do a couple of freelance jobs for free so you can have a bit of a portfolio, and then start hitting up people or businesses. I have 45 years. Too late for me to switch career as a software developer? No, you won't they'll be reluctant to hire you in like a startup or something. If you have a background in some other industry, so I don't know, I'll just say, for example, if you were a bookkeeper or a lawyer and you move into software development, then you'd be valuable to legal firms who need software done. I hope that makes sense. But why not? I know people in their 50s are still coding. Is LinkedIn a great place to find jobs as a junior web developer? I don't know. You have to look into it. Again, you got to develop big reputation as a developer. That's the main thing. You have to develop reputation. A few ways you do that. After you got your coding down, you got to build some projects for people, real projects, not tutorials, but real projects. And you got to put that out there, and that usually means a very good website. And then you start networking with people. I just started to learn to code this year. Hey, welcome to the game, dude. Welcome to the game. Hey, Happy New Year, Stef. And what do you think about Ruby 3? Also, what about Electron for developing desktop apps with JavaScript? This guy doesn't know. He's on it. Asking me about Ruby. I'm just joking. I don't know. I heard, though, the creator of Ruby, I forget his name, Japanese dude, he was saying that there's fundamental things about Ruby which they could not fix, I think, in terms of performance. I'm not 100% on this. I'm 95% on this. I was reading this. Ruby is in its form, if you will, a cool language in many respects. You know, everything is an object automatically. But one thing that bothered me about Ruby is that it was implicit and not explicit. What do I mean by that? You have to know the language to see what's going on. Whereas other languages, they're not as elegant. They're a little bit more verbose, but it's very obvious what's going on when you see the code. I hope that makes sense. But it's a matter of taste. But again, Ruby has some very cool things, and it can be very productive. Its biggest problem was performance. But again, with M1 and that kind of innovation, this type of performance becomes less and less of an issue over time, right? As I always say, write time speed is more important than runtime speed. That's why, like I was talking to my good friend yesterday, who's a C++ developer. He said to me, in no uncertain terms, and this guy's been writing C++ for many years now. He's really good. He's at the peak. He's in his, I think he's in his mid-30s. So he's kind of at that's the super peak. He's at that high-end developer peak, and he was saying that he said there's no reason to write new software in C++. He said, don't do it. And this is a guy, that's all he does. That's what he does. Not all, but that's a lot what he does. So I don't know how I got into that, but yeah. So though C++ runs so fast, it's much faster, especially in Python or Java or C# or PHP or Ruby. It just runs circles around all these things. Because the inherent problem writing C++ code, you know, the pointers and the string manipulation issues, although there's new iterations apparently they're better at it. Again, I'm not a C++ coder. This is what they're telling me. It's the right time slowness of C++ makes it a no-go as far as he's concerned. And so, yeah, listen, that being said, there's still a lot of job opportunity in C++ because there's a huge amount of legacy C++ code out there. And a lot of companies, they've got a big investment in C++, and they're not going to want to, you know, people are kind of married to certain things, you know. Cheap Wisdom, what does he have to say? Happy New Year, Stef. Happy New Year to you. What do you think about... Okay, we did this one already. Okay. I'm a glutton for punishment. Thanks for your answer. No worries. I'm happy to help. Architecture matters 100%. I think architecture is super important. In my opinion, codes will morph into data scientists gradually over time, over the long run. I haven't thought about that, so I do not have an opinion. I hope not. I'm 60 years older. Holy jeez, wow, good. I've had people in their 80s learn to code from me, you know. It's good if you just do it as a brain mental exercise, or keep your mind sharp. Yeah, here's one of the tips. I have a background in psychology, by the way. To stave off mental frailty, dementias, you want to learn new things, different things. So if you're artistically inclined, do some math. If you're math inclined, do some art. If you're not physical, be physical. If you're used to team sports, do individual sports, vice versa. By exposing yourself to different things, you strengthen the neural connections in your mind. You create new ones, which strengthens your mind. Well, your brain, you know. All right, here we go. C# dev here. I'm now doing your web dev course for a job thing. I've learned HTML 3.2 before Ajax became common. So now, for me, watching HTML new stuff is like, whoa, exactly. Yeah, 3.2 is like extremely primitive compared to HTML5. HTML5 is a huge game changer. When HTML5 came out, CSS3, HTML5, when that whole thing came out, all of a sudden, web apps became supercharged, and Microsoft basically was pushing against web development because they felt it was a risk to Windows. But when HTML5 came out and they embraced it, and Steve Jobs took an axe to Flash, it's a game changer. That technology, with that allows for PWAs, that allows for local storage, that allows for all kinds of capability that was so difficult prior. All right, Omar, what's Omar saying? I have a huge database background. Good. I have exposure to PHP, Python, Java. I can read and understand them. Which one would you think I can focus? I am focusing now on Python. Is that a good direction? Python is extremely popular. Again, my advice to people looking at these type of things, look at the local job market or where you want to work and see what they're asking for. And if you do that, you'll find yourself in a good position. I'm just adjusting my comments here. All right, here we go. Next one. In your opinion, what can junior developer do to make the most of their first 1 to 2 years on the job and become a successful developer? Any advice would be helpful. Well, listen to the older developers. I would study design patterns. Look in my footer. I recommend a design patterns book. That's going to level up your coding skill faster than all the tutorials on YouTube put together. So learn design patterns and refactoring. Learn refactoring and then after design patterns. But refactoring is key. That's going to really level up your game, and design patterns will level up your game. So study those things so you write really clean, good code. Develop good communication skills. And learn to be able to work with other people and developers so that they appreciate you. Your job as a developer is to basically, you're a service provider, right? So yeah, I like this. I'm going to go to Peter here. What's Peter saying? Rule number 1, F you money. No, it's not rule number 1, but it's actually in the top rules. I'm very sophisticated, all my stuff here. Now, FU money is rule number 5 in the list. Rule number 1 is live within your means, and I'll expand upon that. And rule number 5 is FU money. FU money is key. All right. You mentioned that remote work will increase. It already has quite a bit. I'm looking for my first dev job at 29. I really want the team agency experience. I feel this is an important step in the process of becoming a good dev. Well, you can do it remotely, right? You can, Zoom meetings, et cetera, but it's not a binary here. It's not everything's going to go remote. But I'm just saying there's going to be a push towards that. There'll still be people working in offices, but it'll be just much more of a blend, In software, abstraction is your friend. Embrace it. Be language independent and API proponent. Yeah, I agree. 2.5 years as a dev and still imposter syndrome all the time. Is it just me? No, people have that because in the first 3 years or so of software development, it's like a lot of learning there. After like 4 or 5 years, then you start really getting settled into your role as a developer. So you're still in the learning stages. That's okay. Just keep learning. And as I said, I would look at refactoring if you want to up your game, you want to live up your game. Refactoring. There's a link to a book below. Get it? It's such an, I still have my I've thrown out hundreds of software development books. One of the books I've kept for 20 years now is still my refactoring book because it's such an important book. So get that if you want to level up your game. When you hit about the 4 or 5 year mark, you start getting pretty, well, 3 years, 4 years, depending on you, you start really getting pretty good. When you hit the 10-year mark, you reach like a really high level developer. But it's normal. First couple of years, don't worry, dude. Just keep working. Let's see what we got here. PHP and Python are maybe more useful for freelancers, but Java for corporate employees. Yeah, Java, and I would add C#.net. Again, as I've been teaching for a while now, the language you choose, the stack you choose, a lot of times it has much more to do with the environment in which it's being applied, whether you're working in enterprise, big business, or small business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Education, they tend to use a lot of Python now, All right, I'm on my master's for computer science. I'm a 27-year-old, haven't had a full-time job in the industry, only some internships from courses. Should I capitalize on the demand now? And because of my age, I'm in my master's. Well, that's a good question. How far away are you to completing your master's? Is it 3 years, 2 years, 1 year? Could you slow down your educational process so you work full time and you complete your master's on, twice a week? You do courses. I don't know. You got to kind of balance these things out. You're still quite young, dude. So, if you tell me in a year or two you'll be done your master's, then getting a job, there'll always be jobs there. If it was a business opportunity, that might be I would say then go for the business opportunity. But I'm speaking my own book. My major in university was psychology, and because of my business started to grow and had nothing to do with tech. It was fish and water purification products and crap, stuff like that. I had to make a choice because I couldn't go full-time to school and build this business, so I went with the business. I still owe one of my professors, a paper from like 30 years ago. I'm starting my online web design, web developer business later this year, and I sell my services and packages instead of hourly rates. What do you think is the best hourly rate or package-based payment? Well, what's going to happen, Daniel? I'll tell you what exactly is going to happen. So you're going to go in and you're going to see clients. And you better have a really fantastic looking site, even if you just want to do back end. It better look amazing. And you better communicate well and professionally, because if you don't, they're not going to be able to judge you based on your code, right? They're not coders. So they're going to judge you based on these superficial things I just discussed. So you're going to go in and they're going to ask you, what is your per hour rate? Just so they can gauge you. But there's no client, especially if you're new and they don't know you, who is going to say, okay, charge me this much per hour, have at it. They're going to say how much per hour, and then they're going to say how much to do the whole thing. And they're going to want it done for a set price. That's just the way it is. So if in my freelance course, I give a little tip, a little trick on how to really increase how much you make per hour in a subtle way, if you will. So when you're first starting out, you're not as productive, right? You're not as capable as a developer. So you have to charge less per hour because your hour of work is not nearly as good as somebody who's been doing it for 5 years. I'm assuming that you're a junior here. So you charge less. So you go in to see clients, they're going to smell that you're a noob, right? Unless you're really good at sales and presentation. So you're going to have to charge less a little bit, bite that bullet. So you may charge, I'm just going to use round numbers to make the math easier. So at first you just charge $20 the hour, whatever it is. And you say it's going to take me 10 hours to do. And they're going to go, okay, $10, $20, is the going rate like 18? You go, okay, I'll do it for 18, 10 hours, so $108. Again, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air. It's depending where you live in the world, these numbers are going to be all over the place. But what happens in time, as you get really good, you start developing really good workflows, you start mastering certain stacks, etc. All of a sudden, the job that would take you 10 hours to do before now only takes you 2, but you still bid 10. So you still say, yeah, I'm $20, I'm now really good, I'm $30 the hour, I'm really good. I'm $30. Look at my track record. And they go, ooh, it's expensive. Can you give it to me for 25? Yeah, you can do it for 25, but it's 10 hours of work. But because you're really good at what you do now, you can do it in 2, right? So instead of you taking 10 hours to do it at 25, you're doing it 2, right? So now you're making like whatever, $100 the hour, right? It's not nefarious to do that because you're providing value. You're providing that extra value. I had to deal with this back in the day where I had developed my own framework, my own web framework. I was primarily using Java JSPs and servlets, and I had Java Beans, Pojo-based web application development. So I developed my own framework. This was back in the 90s, and it took time to do this. But once the framework was created, I was able to deploy apps, create apps that were pretty bug-free because it was my code base, my framework, very quickly in record time. Something that used to take me 100 hours to do, I could do in 20 hours. But I would bid 100 hours, or I would actually bid 80. And I asked a good friend of mine, I said, is it wrong for me to make that extra money because I'm able to do the job now in a fraction of the time? Because I got my framework and my experience, my workflows. He goes, no, that's your IP, that's your intellectual property. You develop those frameworks, you develop the workflows, so that's what you bring to the game. And so that's where you accrue the big gains. So in my end of my career as a freelancer back in the 90s, I was billing out $200 the hour. Now as far as clients were concerned, I was making 70. Now that was back in that day's dollars, right? I know people who were doing 300, after me. So again, but it is how you position it and how you position yourself. I hope that makes sense. I get all into that into my freelance course. Yes, I'm shamelessly plugging. Keep an eye on low-code, no-code platforms. I know we are talking about coders, but believe me, there's something to keep an eye on. Low-code, no-code. Yeah, I talk about that. I think they're good. They could be good for prototyping, good for smaller application development. There's much more to app development than writing code. People, like in my mentoring group, people are seeing that now. They're starting to get jobs saying, yeah, you're right. It's the coding part is like a small part of the job. Specification, digging specifications out, figuring out hosting requirements, deployment requirements, all this kind of stuff. It has nothing to do with code. Anyway, it's all part of the job though. How important design patterns for junior devs? I think once you get past your fundamentals, the basic constructs of the language, you can build basic apps, you got to get into design patterns. It's like, you got to get into design patterns and you got to get into refactoring. That's going to level up your game faster than anything else. Trust me. It's like supercharge your game. Follow on. I'm concerned as I don't want remote job to begin. Well, again, I think there'll still be in-house jobs, but I just think there's going to be a lot more remote than, quicker. Amazon or Shopify Slack, what would you pick and why? Amazon or Shopify Stack? Okay, Amazon or Shopify Stack. What do you mean Amazon Stack? But you got to elaborate. All I know about Amazon is their AWS services and so forth. I think Shopify is more specialized, if I understand what you're talking about vis-a-vis Amazon. Again, it depends on, it's all job dependent, dude. Is iOS development a good future choice? I don't think it's going anywhere. There's still going to be a lot of demand for years. But again, let's say, for example, you learned iOS development, Swift iOS, and all of a sudden, I don't know, something weird happens and PWAs and Flutter takes over and iOS development demand diminishes quite a bit. For you to move from iOS development to PWA would be like trivial. It was like, boop, like this. So it's not a big deal. Again, you're a beginner or you're intermediate level coder, you think of yourself as, I'm an iOS developer, I'm a Java developer, I'm a this developer. But as you become more advanced, you become a developer and the underlying tech, iOS, Swift, Java, Kotlin, C#, it becomes less of an issue for you. It becomes just a personal choice issue. Man, this guy is I'm probably saying this wrong, my apologies. Sarbjeet has got some good comments. Being a programmer is like being an artist. You do it for love it, do some sample art. Yeah, well, you got to be into it, right? It's pretty intense work, so you got to be into it at first, especially. As a 15-year-old, what should I focus on? Fundamentals, 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 fundamentals. I do WebStack because you could probably find yourself little web gigs where you can make some money when you're probably 16. So small stuff. But yeah, just do that. Code a little bit every day. 20 minutes a day. 54 on code daily. There you go. Doesn't hurt to learn and try design. Design patterns are important, extremely important. It will up your game. That and refactoring, both. I'm trying to become a professional. Hey, Stef, I'm trying to become a professional boxer and a coder as a career. You motivate and help a lot. Oh, cool. And be careful with that boxing. Yeah, yeah, be careful with that boxing. If you find when you boxing, it's cool. It's a lot of fun. I love to spar, love to fight. My suggestion to you, if you find that you're not really dominant, like really dominant early on, then I would back off and preserve your face and your knuckles. You know, I'm just saying. But if you are really dominant, explore it. You know, too much magic. I'm glad I could help though, by the way. Happy 2020 all. I'll better get back to the video I'm working on, 2020 in tech. All right, cool. Nunchuk, you will become a senior developer someday and learning design patterns will help you transition to bigger roles. 100%. Good job. Yeah, if you don't mind, what did he say? Smash that like button. It's just good for the Google algorithms, that's all. That's all. Cold emailing is not frowned upon, but you're going to get very, very low hit rates, you know, very low hit rates. Yeah, that's all. If you can take it, though, don't do blast emails, though. That can get you in big trouble legally. But individual, targeted stuff, do some research, you know. Primitive Hacker says, do you think that we will hit the singularity with the M1 chip? I think, I don't know when the singularity is going to hit, but thanks everybody for the thumbs up. Again, it's just good for the Google algorithm, you know, spreads the word out there. I moved from, my goal is to try to improve video quality and presentational skills. When I first started the YouTube thing a few years ago, my main goal was just to get better at speaking to the camera like this. And then the next goal was to make it look better and to make it sound better. So my goal this year, I got 180,000 subs. I like to try to see if I can get it to 500,000 or something, just to do something. So when you give me a thumbs up, it's much appreciated because it just tells Google, hey, you guys like the stream, you appreciate what I am doing here. So I appreciate that. What's up? Hey, Hologram, how are you? Architecture matters 100%. Thanks, man. Happy New Year. You too. Yeah, by the way, if you didn't hear me before, Happy New Year to everybody. If it's New Year for you, because there's many calendars out there, right? I don't know. I forget when Chinese New Year is, but anyhow, Happy New Year. Yeah, I think we're going to leave this 2020, which was the worst year in for the world anyway, since the last big pandemic. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity will come out of this whole situation. All right. Mohammed Asif, do you think web development is dead? No, I think quite the opposite. I think it's going to get just bigger and bigger and bigger. Work full-time for a company in order to have bigger paycheck, or part-time and run a business. I'm 22-year-old right out of college. If you are inclined towards business, now is the time to try because you have a lot of runway. You might as well try now, right? If you're thinking about it and it's burning in your head, I say do it now because you're so young. You're so young. And yeah, because business, you're going to mess up the first many times. So you just got to go, okay, whatever. And it's like dating. Hey, you want to go out? No. Hey, you want to date? No. You just got to keep working at it, and you're going to develop your skill as a business person, entrepreneur, And now's the time to do it because you don't have any responsibilities. Maybe you still live at home. You don't have any huge debts to pay. You don't have kids to raise. Because when you're older, forget about it. It's going to be way too difficult. So do it now. And after 5 years, 6 years, it doesn't work out, you're still quite young. You can get a job, boom, like this. And all that experience trying to build business and code and stuff will make you super valuable. But if you just do it now. So if I were you, I would go for a business, part-time, and run a business. Build that skill, because, of course, you could really succeed as in a large corporation if you catch a good one and you're very good with your communication skills and so forth. You could rise in the ranks, but it's a whole different game, the corporate lifestyle. So if you're inclined to business, I'd say you're 22, do it for sure. I bought your code, started to learn to code 2 weeks ago. Why is JavaScript so popular? It's so popular because it's so widely used. JavaScript is the only language in town when it comes to browser coding, which is huge. And then JavaScript was ported to the server. That's pretty much it. It has no competition in the web browser, essentially. There was at one point, Microsoft had VB Script in the IE browser, but that's pretty much it. Now you could use TypeScript now, which is a superset of JavaScript, and it will compile down to JavaScript, but there's no competition. Whereas on the server, you got C#, Java, Perl, Ruby, PHP, Python, and I don't know, several others. So there's a lot of competition there, but JavaScript just got no competition where it dwells, What thing that HTML5 does that previous HTML that impresses you the most? Well, it's a whole bunch of things. HTML5 just basically unlocked the power of the web. And a lot of it was business and political, really. Companies like Microsoft didn't want to do it. They felt the web was a threat to their Windows dominance, that's all. It's all the new tags that come in there that do so much, video embed tags.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No, Siri. Between Siri and Google, Siri is pretty dumb. I just have to say that. It's the one bad thing about Apple. Siri is not too bright. I think Siri will never be bright because Apple whole business model is based on not invading your privacy. Google is the brightest because it knows everything what you're doing. Anyway, sorry, what was that? What, HTML5? Yeah, and then HTML5 allows you to do local storage, and you add it in the HTML5 package, you have CSS3, which allows for easy functional layout with CSS grid, CSS flexbox, CSS tables. I teach CSS tables actually in my course. Then you have, you throw in a little JS. It allows you to make a web app act like a thick client. It's just, that's what it is. All right, how are we doing for time? An hour! What time is it now? What time is it now for me? It's 10:12. So I'm going to I'll do a little bit more. All right, thanks for saying that, Mr. PNW. My prediction of 29, I will be a full-time paid developer. There's no reason not to. I know people do it within a couple of months. What else do we got here? How much JavaScript do I need for full stack PHP? Not too much. I can do animations and play with the DOM, but I just don't know much about. I just don't know how much JavaScript I need to learn. That's pretty much all you need. If you're doing more back-end, you just got to know DOM manipulation and Ajax. That's pretty much it. There you go. It's not too difficult because, as I teach, functions are functions, methods are methods, arrays are arrays. There's some subtle differences between the languages, but once you understand that, the thing about JavaScript, it's kind of peculiar, the way it handles types and so forth, but you'll get through that. Good Python reference book. I always go to Amazon. See what they say. But, I would just go to python.org, look at the docs there. Just go to python.org. Once you know Python, you don't really, it's all there. So far, I've been hanging on to everything he's been teaching. That's saying a lot. I'm excited. Cool. I'm glad you're excited. Yeah, just keep at it, Remember, whenever if ever you reach roadblocks or you find things difficult or frustrating, understand that's good. That's a good thing. It's like when you're lifting weights and you're pushing yourself beyond your limit. That means you're building. That means you're going beyond your current limits, and you will build beyond that. It also means that that's a barrier to entry. I mean, you can't get in so easy, which means it's more valuable. If anything that's easy and perceived as super fun is not worth much in the marketplace. If it has a steep learning curve at first, once you get past it, it's easy. It has a steep learning curve at first, it's perceived as very valuable. It's perceived as hard, and it becomes much more valuable. So yeah, try not to feel too bad when you hit stuff that's, when you're hitting things, you hit the wall, it's inevitable. What advice do you have for folks in their 30s and 40s and 50s looking for a career change? I would transition, first of all. I wouldn't quit your job and jump into it. I would transition. I would learn the fundamentals of coding and development. You're probably better off in the web stack simply because you have a lot more opportunity. If you have a professional career now, you may be able to marry those skills with new coding skills. That's the first thing. Yeah, that's the main thing. Also, I would, if you haven't done it, pay attention to your money. You want to position yourself so that you don't have to worry about money as you work and transition. But you want to transition out, that's the main thing. Yeah, I would agree with this statement. JavaScript is a very good secondary skill. You need JavaScript, especially if you're doing web. With popular Python, is there any niche language that might get better pay rate? I don't know. I think developers, it has much more to do with your skills and experience in terms of your pay. That being said, I don't know. If you want to really get niche-y, look at COBOL. You might be able to make a crap ton of money writing COBOL if you want to write that. COBOL, if you know, is a very ancient language. I think it's from the 60s even. Yeah, I think it's from the 60s. Anyway, for mainframes, and a lot of banks, they still use that. So if you did that, if you want to write that, you may be great. You may find it great. I don't know, check into it. Just look around, do a little, you have Indeed.com, do a little Google searching, see what the deal is. C# and Java, which would you choose and why? It's based on jobs, it's based on job opportunities, different parts of the world. C# might be bigger, and other parts Java might be bigger. If you're working in C#, you're going to be working in companies that are married to the whole Microsoft ecosystem. Yeah. Very true. Design patterns and refactoring are a good start. Yeah, that's how you level up your game. You learn your basics, you do some project work, you get out there in the real world, and then you start learning about design patterns and refactoring, and your game will go from here to boop, very fast. Hi from Laval. Hey, Blop, how are you? Yeah. What else say? Yeah, book is a great book. Exactly. They have there's a Java version, the one I have, and they have a JavaScript version, which is more recent. I guess for most people, the JavaScript version would be better. Hi from Brazil. 2021, year of a lot of programming stuff. Very cool. Well, that's good. Hey, Spencer, how are you? How are you doing? I'm very good. Thanks for asking. Happy New Year. Thank you for everything. I'm glad I could help, Spencer, and Happy New Year to you, and thanks for joining the stream. It's good. Here we go. There you go. Get that. I studied design patterns, but don't know how to apply it. It comes with practice, perhaps. Maybe you can find some examples, just type in Google, apply design patterns, But if you're building stuff, you're using the design patterns a lot of the times. Like if you're building a web app, for example, with a modern framework like Django or PHP Laravel or Rails or whatever, and Express, you're using MVC as one example of a design pattern. You're using MVC all the time as the foundation of it all. You're using design patterns when you're working with arrays and stuff, but you just got to become aware of them. That's all. I'm 15. I know HTML, CSS3, Node.js, React, Sass. I am learning. Can you build something though? Are you able to sit down and build something? If you think you can, go to a small business or a nonprofit and say, listen, I know these skills. Look at my beautiful website. Look what I've done. I want to build something. And learn how to build things. But in terms of the actual skills, the check boxes, yeah, you got plenty. Let's see. How do you answer a question, why do you think you're a good fit on an interview? That's a good question, actually. Well, one of the things I teach at Burns of interviews, you gotta research the company you're interviewing for. Understand their founder, what their business model is, what their market is, etc., and see how you can align in different ways in regards to that. So you have to get to know the company before you go into the interview, not superficially, really understand it. And then you can make associations for them based on that research, okay? TensorFlow certification. I don't know. I don't know how important that is. So I couldn't say. Yeah. I'm glad you like it. Yeah. Matthew, how you doing, man? The 20-minute a day thing works. I started that in June, and it just picks up today. I did 9 hours and didn't realize it was that long. I just got in the zone and coded. Exactly. It's a little psychological trick. When you say to yourself, I'm just going to do 20 minutes, your lizard brain, your lower brain, your emotional self won't be going, I don't want to do this. Because if you go, I got to do 5 hours today, that's a pretty major commitment. And there's two things you can count on in humanity, laziness and greed. So your lizard brain is always looking to be efficient for survival purposes, right? It's evolutionarily constructed, if you will. And so it's always, so when you say, we got to spend 5 hours doing this, your lizard brain's going, that's its natural inclination unless you're trained otherwise. So one way to sort of habituate yourself to coding is just to do that little trick and say, I'm just going to do 20 minutes today. And sometimes you will only do 20 minutes, but you become habituated to and you become affectionate to that which you are exposed to on a regular basis. Okay? This is from Lizard Wizard. And so by doing 20 minutes a day, you're essentially doing that. And what happens is then you become more and more inclined. And what happens, your emotional self says, why didn't we do our coding today? Why didn't we do it? This is what we do. We code. That's what we do. So your lizard brain will start coding and will start wanting you to code. At the end of the day, the primary lesson of the lizard, your lower hindbrain, is that our emotions dictate most of our decisions, not our intellectual remunerations or processing, if you will. We think it's our intellectual self, but it's actually more of an emotional self. That's what the science shows. Well, I imagine so, but not. I think it's still going to be very big right now. Think of it, but that's an easy prediction on my part. Why? Look at C++. How was that? That was developed in the 70s. There's still a demand for it. COBOL, still demand for it. That was developed in the 60s, JavaScript, the most popular language out there, JavaScript or Python, they're 20, 25-year-old languages. So it's not it's not a difficult prediction, that's for sure. Hey, do you think PHP is still okay for web dev? 100%. I did a video, you can look back a few weeks ago, and at one of the job sites, they found that PHP job growth was the biggest of all, 800% job growth listings. And PHP, in terms of server-side programming language, languages rather. In terms of server-side programming languages, it's the most widely used of the bunch. So it is alive and well, and a new PHP 8, it's either out or just about to come out, which makes it more enterprise ready. How much time should one focus on learning new things via books and tutorials versus producing things and learning from making projects? Once you get past your basics and you're able to make a project, you should spend like 90% of your time writing projects, getting paid to learn. And then you learn on a need-to-nerd basis is what I teach, need-to-nerd basis. So you learn things as the projects demand. So trust me, lots to learn. And then, you can pick up stuff that interests you personally. How are from Egypt? Okay, so you're from Egypt. Thanks for joining the stream. Cool. All right, so again, guys, if you liked this content, just hit the thumbs up. It's just good for the Google algorithm, and it lets people know about my content, which is one of my goals, is I want to see if I can hit bigger numbers just for my own fun. Hi, Stef, what do you think of good programming projects for CS degree, college transfer applications? Whatever your specialization wants to be. If you want to be web stack, do web stack. If you want to do AI, develop some basic AI apps. It depends on what you want to do. You know what I mean? Maybe you want to create device controllers, then jumping down into some C++. All right. Yeah, thanks for the thumbs up, guys. I really appreciate it. It's just Google's got this algo. It's got these bots running around, and it's paying attention to thumbs up. And if it sees more thumbs up, it puts my stream in front of more eyeballs. I get more eyeballs, the better, the more I do. That's all. Any advice on how to get clients for my business? Yeah, there's all kinds of different things you can do. Shameless self-promotion, you should just get my freelance course where I talk about that. But in a nutshell, you want to put up a really nice looking website, and then you start doing some word of mouth, talking, get a LinkedIn profile up there. That's good. Those sorts of things, right off the top of my head. Word of mouth is always very cool. The hardest job to get is the first job. Once you get past your first job, then everything else will become pretty easy, Yeah, Johnny Cinco Cero. Learn to code. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. I like that. Yes, any advice to someone who is a procrastinator? Well, you're going to love my Lizard Wizard training. That's coming out soon. I just mentioned it. You want to do that 20-minute a day trick. So what does that mean? It's let's say you have a course, a JavaScript course, or maybe it's even training. Who knows? Whatever. You say 4 days a week. I'm going to do 20 minutes a day, just 20 minutes, and you sit down and you do that 20. It's painful. It's only 20 minutes. You even put a timer, 20 minutes. And some days, you're just going to just get through that 20 minutes, and then you'll be like, that's enough. Then the next day, you do that 20 minutes. What happens quickly over time, your brain will start wanting to do that 20 minutes, believe it or not. It's going to become something you want to do. And all of a sudden, 20 minutes will be 30 minutes, and then it will be 40 minutes, and then like Matthew was saying, all of a sudden it's 9 hours. So it works. It works because it's a technique that understands how your brain actually operates. You're procrastinating because your brain perceives doing coding work or whatever it is you're procrastinating. It perceives it to be hard or boring. So the first thing you do is just discipline yourself to do that 20 minutes a day. The brain likes what it sees on a frequent basis. So it's like TV shows. Like, I don't know, people don't do it anymore. But in the old days when we used to watch TV shows at a particular hour, a lot of times you'd hear it over and over again. Or a TV show would be a major hit if it was at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. But if they moved it to 7 p.m. on Thursday, it would kill the show. Because people were like, I don't watch it at that time. So you want to do that 20-minute a day trick. That's my big trick. It works wonders. You'd be surprised. All right, how are we doing? Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, it's a good camera. Any advice on how to protect? Oops, wait, click this properly. Any advice on how to protect your eyes when looking at screens all day? Get the best quality screen you can get with the highest refresh rate. So because if the refresh rates are not too good, your eyes are seeing this. So if it's a faster refresh rate, it actually is better for your eyes. So higher quality the screen, the better for you. Okay, and also well-lit room. Not a dark screen background, a lighter screen background. Not pure white, but like eggshell white or muted colors, but not dark. You just want to rest your eyes and take breaks. Take breaks. Design patterns for all languages. Design patterns are language neutral. They apply to all language. They're independent of language. Exactly. You got it here. Yeah. 200 thumbs up to come. Come on. That's it. Good point. Come on, guys. 200 thumbs up. Here we go. Todd. Old farts, cheer up. There were no great achievements produced by innovators before the age of 19, and only 7% were produced by innovators before the age of 26. So there you go. That's an interesting stat. I was not aware of that. Web development can't be dead. What do you think YouTube is, Lafayette? Yeah, well, YouTube, Facebook, yada. Hi, Stef. Would you consider making a studio course on e-commerce, Shopify, or WordPress, since they seem to be two of the more viable niches for freelancers to specialize in? I might put out some stuff. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting out free studio web content, like mini courses. I could maybe do a mini course on WordPress that way. Maybe a mini course introducing Shopify. That is a possibility. It's an interesting idea. I thought about it. All right, we're 179 likes. We're getting there. So close to 200. That would be good. Yeah, see, right now I have 178 viewers. If we can get the likes above the viewer count, that would be an interesting dichotomy, which would freak out the algorithms. I'm kidding around. Cheers. Happy 2021. Oh, yes. Once again, happy 2021 to everybody. How are we doing here? All right. Oof, an hour and a half. All right. Okay. 181. We're getting there. Come on, guys. Come on. Hi, Stefan. Happy New Year from Toronto. How's the winter there in Montreal so far? So far, it's been super mild. Today, I think it went above freezing, which is unusual. 186. All right. The Google algorithm is all confused now. 185 viewers, 186 likes. Good. Let's get it to 200. That'd be good. Maybe. But again, like you just pivot, right? You would just pivot from one tech to the other. WebAssembly versus web for development. Started as a hire for a graphic artist and inherited the outdated file portal, which I completely rewrote in PHP. It's insane how this large corp had such a lacking backend. Welcome to the real world. Very common. Think about it. Many banks and financial institutions and government institutions use COBOL for their mainframes, which is like a 1960s technology. You know what I mean? 191. That's good. Let's do 200. We're so close. Happy almost New Year from up north Michigan. Well, from my perspective, that's down south. I'm up here in Montreal. I drove through Michigan once. Yeah. England. Hey, wow, you're up late. What time is it now? It must be 4 a.m. out there? What would you suggest if I enjoy coding but dislike front-end development? Even based, just concentrate on the back end. Concentrate on the back end. Maybe look at native mobile development, You know, going up 35 is prime of life in some respects. I would agree with that. Yeah, there you go. Okay, somebody's broken. It's broken the flow. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna answer a few more questions. Michael, laugh out loud. First day of the year. I'm still drunk and Stefan is live. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, dude. Thanks for joining the stream. And once in a while, it's okay to get drunk. That's good. That's good. This hour went by quickly, Steph. I think. Yeah, it did. We're an hour and a half almost. Wow, unbelievable. Now we're tantalizingly close to 200, 193. You guys are teasing me now. I want to see if I can hit 200. Any advice on Node.js? Node.js is one of the big ones out there. One of the big ones. I would take a look. Webflow versus coding a front end. Webflow is cool. I would use it as a tool. I would still learn your front end coding because these tools like Webflow, no matter how good they are, you're always going to need to know a bit of code, even if they get really good. So I would learn coding, HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, and just work with Webflow, see how it goes. Good evening, Ricardo. Yes, fantastic New Year to you too. Thanks for joining in the stream. Appreciate it. 195. I'm going to ask one last time. Hit that like button. Let's get it to 200. 196, so close. It's like the countdown. Okay, Learning Steward. Do you think 21 is too old to start programming? I like people in the comments to answer this guy. Good question. Good question. But I like people to, I guess you just jumped into the stream. But people are going to answer you. And you're going to get a lot of answers here. The answer is, though, you're really young. So you're not too old to do anything now. Except maybe play with toys or something. But, yeah, so 201. Thanks, guys. It's the little achievements that make life special. Yeah, you're way, way young. Jump in, dude. You're good, you're good, you're good. You look like a professional hitman. Well, you know, old habits, old habits. Invest your Python, taking advantage of 50 per... invest in your Python package, taking advantage of your 50% promo. That's cool. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Just take advantage. 50%. It's still good for a little while. You get the Python with the certifications. That's cool. Does doing programming professional rather than as a hobby take the joy out of it? That's a good question, actually. No. If you're building cool things, you know, it's very cool is when you build something and people are actually using it to do work, to get work done. It's very satisfying, at least for me and most coders, I think it is too. The worst thing is when you write code and nobody uses it, you're like, you did all that work and nobody's going to use it. So, but like anything in life, if you do too much, too hard, after a time you get burnt out with it. So you got to pace yourself a little bit, give yourself breaks as you go. Okay? All right. How are we doing here? An hour and a half. Oof. So I'm going to be wrapping things up fairly soon. Hey, Tiffany, Happy New Year to you. Do what you love most, I see. Yeah, streaming's a lot of fun. Tiff is an old friend of mine, and she's good with the social media stuff. And yeah, I just like doing live streams. Too much fun. Too much fun. We just, there you go. Yeah, put your URL, put it in. She's a social media marketer. Yeah, exactly. Well, now's the time to do the predictions. Look at that. More likes than viewers now, which is good. Do you source most of your work from Canadian clients? I am no longer a freelancer. I run a SaaS code studio web, which I sell to schools around North America and different parts of the world, in fact. That's one of the things I do. But I'm not a developer per se. I manage the development of the code, but that's about it. Keep up the great work with the channel, Stefan. How do you think the recent forced remote working combined with increasing globalization of the job market will affect pay in the West. I think the West is, as I said early on, watch the video and my predictions for the year. I talk about that. It's very positive actually for people in the West. So watch that when you watch the replay, and you'll see I talk about that pretty early in the stream. So I wouldn't worry about it. Lizard brain is becoming the Zooks. I don't know what that means. The Zuck. Lizard brain is becoming, as in becoming the Zuck. That's good. That's good. No, lizard brain is in reference to your lower brain, your emotional self. It's called the lizard brain actually in the scientific circles because we share that brain, or that brain architecture, if you will, or that brain operating system with lizards and all animals up the evolutionary hierarchy. That's actually the lizard brain. Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah. Could you give me, go find a real client and build something for them. Yeah, being a developer is a lot being like a detective. You're sleuthing out a process. You're trying to figure out what to do. You know, it's a lot less of, it's not a jigsaw puzzle. It's a little bit more thinking involved. Who here has coded while sleeping and woke up with solutions to problem the day before? This is very common, in fact. Very common. That's why I tell people, if you hit a snag in your code, and you just, after like whatever, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you can't figure it out, try to find a buddy, or just go on to the next thing and come the next day, and usually the next day you find a solution. All right, we're going to be closing off because I've been talking for an hour and a half now, and yeah. I am pursuing coding and freelancing as a side hustle at the moment. Very cool. What are the best ways for a developer to gauge the needs of your market from freelance perspective? Hope 2021 is well. Hope your 21 is well. Thank you. I like your style, by the way. Good question. You could look at local job sites and stuff. You can maybe look at what the local economy is about. Different parts of the world, there's different economies. And then you can check that out. Start pounding the pavement, do a little word of mouth, a little traditional, you know. If you're freelancing, you want to go after small businesses or people who are just starting out. Forget about the big businesses. And that's what you got to do. You got to do a little digging because every market's different, you know. Okay, here we go. That's an interesting question. Let's see what we got here. I'm a 32-year-old accountant whose hobbies include making sites on WordPress. That's cool. Design using Adobe Creative Cloud, and interested in creating some platform apps. So any suggestions for jack of all types? Again, yeah, jack of all types. Okay, WebStack is cool. You're already in WordPress, so you're sort of getting into that. Learn a little PHP. Maybe you can start digging deeper. Little PHP, little HTML, little CSS. You could start digging deeper into the WordPress ecosystem, which is a big money maker. People love and hate it, both at the same time. That's one option. All right, thanks for the thumbs up there, Tiffany. Oper. Yeah, cool. How we doing there? An hour and a half. Oof. All right, I'll answer a few more questions, and then I gotta go. I got some beer waiting for me. Do you offer fundamental courses? Yeah, check in the links below. I teach Python, I teach JavaScript, I teach PHP, HTML5, CSS, and a lot of other content, SQL, involved around the languages. Best site for job hunting depends on where you are in the world, man. Check it out. I got this stream recommended in YouTube. Did you? All right, cool. So is this? I don't know how to say your name. Mr. Koostub. Sorry, my apologies. So is this the first time you find my stream? Is that it? Let me know. Which platform is best for C++? Please inform gentlemen, love you from Pakistan. Which platform is best for C++? I couldn't say. I am not. Oh, for writing C++ code? I think it would be Microsoft, my guess. But I couldn't say for sure. What do you mean by platform? I think he means operating system. I think he means operating system. Yeah. Don't know. Never used that. If you find coding hard or boring, I think you picked the wrong career. It could be, but it also could be that he's just a beginner and he's dealing with the sea of less than perfect teaching out there, unfortunately. And there's also that wall when you first start to code. You got to get through, because once you get through and things start to work, it becomes 10 times more fun. So don't give up. Don't give up. At least get to the point where you can build something, okay? Yeah, very common. I hear it all the time. People, I couldn't learn to code, I'm not good. And then you realize it's just a lot of the code courses are just... Happy New Year to you, Ali. Thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate it. Sir, please explain ASP.NET MVC. Is it important to learn it? I will learn... That's true, because ASP.NET, I remember when it first came out, it was not MVC based. It was WinForms based, if I recall. It's been a while. But they did implement an MVC version of it. I would learn MVC because most of the world uses MVC. So yeah, I would learn it. It's good to know. How you see Rust playing out in the future? Well, it's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's a very experienced C++ programmer, and he loves Rust because you got all kinds of speed and you don't have the headaches of C++. So, Matthew, I look for small wins. If I get something to work, it is worth the 2 hours of cussing. That's it. That's it. Gotta go, but I'm going to watch the rest later. Well, don't worry, there's not going to be too much more because my voice is getting tired. So I've been on this an hour and 40 minutes. Happy New Year, everybody, from Fritz. Very cool. Yes, indeed. MVC design pattern is pretty important. One of the most important. It's in the top 3, always worth learning. Thoughts on Golang? Niche technology, but I hear it's very good. I'm still trying to freelance with Mern, but all I get is PHP jobs. Should I learn PHP? Well, if you want to make money, as I've been telling people for years, if you want to make money, PHP WordPress may not be exciting for you, except when you're getting a lot of money. So, yeah. I always chuckle when I hear that. Bilal Mustafa. Oh, Bilal, excuse me. Thanks, man. Hey, no problem. Glad I could help. Thanks for joining the stream. Happy New Year from Algeria. Yeah. Very cool. Happy New Year from Montreal, Canada. Thanks for joining the stream. What are your thoughts on offering mobile development as a viable service? Why not? If there is opportunity there, do it. I think you'll find typically web is better in terms of opportunity, but yeah, sure. There's a lot of opportunity in that. Don't get me wrong. My brother's a full-time mobile developer, iOS mostly. What do you think about Jamstack? Haven't used it. I think it's enough. I think all the stacks are very usable today. At the end of the day, it comes down to job availability and personal choice. I don't think there's a stack out there that just blows away any other stack. It just doesn't exist. Ruby and Rails, believe it or not, was at one point. But it lost that when Python came out with Django, and Laravel came out, and C# web.net. It's like, but today they're all pretty good. Each have their strengths and weaknesses, but you can't go wrong with any stack, except Ruby. Even Ruby, you can't go wrong. You'll be fine. That's a Ruby joke, by the way. In this channel, I do my little Ruby hate. I don't really hate Ruby. I'm language and technology agnostic because they all can perform. You're never too old to start anything, in my opinion. I would agree. Why not? There you go. Exactly. I'm in my 50s. I'm probably going to become a programmer. Fantastic. Yeah, why not? Over 2 likes, great way to start 2021. Yeah, true. I appreciate it, guys, by the way. I know it's like a video game score for me, getting my 219 likes. That's cool. I appreciate it. Answer that. I haven't looked at it. I think Ruby is going to still fall more into a niche language. I don't think it's going to have any upside, but it's not going away anytime soon. It's still got a pretty big base. I think many coders in the market think they're too old or too bad because they're exposed to code stuff all day, and that warps the mind. Yeah, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the stream with a profound truth about software development that people don't realize. Well, experience does know it. There's no developer in the world who knows everything. Not even close. There's no developer in the world who knows more than 1% of what's going on out there. It's just not possible. Even within the context of a particular language, there's practically no developer who knows more than 20% of the language, especially when you got big ones like Java, C#, and Python. Huge, right? So, you know, when you consider all the packages and Python modules or Java classes, it's just like, it's huge. So I wrote Java professionally for several years, and there was huge parts of the language I never even looked at, or I just looked at briefly, like AWT and Swing and stuff like that, IO stuff. I did a little bit, but so when you look at the landscape of software development, try not to let it overwhelm you into thinking that, oh my God, I don't know this, I don't know this, because especially now in the nerd sphere, you know, the MERN people are going to tell you that MERN is the must know, and the Node people are going to tell you that Node is the must know, and the PHP people will tell you that PHP is the must know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all the people are going to tell you that their stuff is essential. That's why they use it. They think it's the best. That's natural. So don't worry about it. That's why I say you concentrate on your fundamentals, and then the vast majority that's out there, you learn on a need-to-nerd basis. When you learn stuff when you need to implement it. That's why I teach fundamentals, because then you can pivot to anything that you want to do. Okay? So take that as the message for 2021. Don't worry about it. Nobody knows everything. I personally forget much more than I still remember, and that's okay. Because if you know your fundamentals, you can just jump and learn anything very quickly, okay? So there you go. Thanks for joining, guys. If you like this stream, smash that like button. Give me the thumbs up. If you hated my stream, show me how badly you hated me and give me 2 thumbs down. And give it to me. All right. That's it for now. So thanks for joining. We'll end off with, do I have my ASMR clip? I think I'm going to come up with a new ASMR clip for 2021. Yeah. Good, I'm lobbying time. All right, so we've done 1 hour and 44 minutes. Wow. All right, that's good. Trying to retrain my mind. Yeah, don't worry, the Lizard Wizard training's coming. It's going to be, appreciate all those thumbs up. It's like I'm in a casino now. Thanks, guys. Once again, Happy New Year. COVID thing, we've gotten through the worst of it, I think. All the vaccines are coming out, and things are going to start making sense. And yeah, a lot of new stuff coming out very soon, very soon. So thanks for joining in once again. Appreciate the thumbs up. Appreciate you spreading the word. And we shall talk soon. I'll see you guys in the next stream. Also, yeah, Google is your friend. We live in golden times. There's so much information out there. There's a lot. My predictions for 2021 were at the beginning of the stream. 5 predictions. I go into detail about the different things. I think if you haven't seen that, watch that. And yeah, if you think this stream is worthy, let people know about it. All right, we're going to do the my ASMR ending video, which is from Cape Elizabeth, Maine. Thanks for joining in. I'm going to go have my little New Year's Eve glass of wine. We'll talk soon, guys.